Hey there. Ever wonder how those cool materials in our phones and even like solar panels are discovered?
Yeah, it's a fascinating process,
Yeah.
but it can be pretty slow.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time. So today we're going deep into a material science lab where they're using this new AI tool.
It's not just speeding things up, it's like changing what it means to be a scientist.
I'm intrigued.
We have data tracking the AI's impact like through the whole R&D process from discovery to patents even to like prototypes.
Wow. Okay, so first, what is this AI? How is it helping scientists discover new materials?
Okay, so think of it as a superpowered assistant
Okay.
that analyzes mountains of data about all these existing materials.
Okay.
It's a graph neural network. Basically, it learns from the structure of known materials,
Uh,
and it uses that knowledge to like predict new compounds that might have the properties scientists are looking for.
so you're saying it's like giving the AI a shopping list. Like I need
Yeah.
something strong, lightweight, heat resistant, whatever.
Exactly.
And it just goes and looks through this huge library of chemical possibilities to suggest stuff.
Exactly. The cool part is they didn't just give the AI to everyone in the lab at once.
Oh,
They
right.
rolled it out like in waves.
Right.
So we can directly compare the scientists who are using it to the ones who aren't.
Oh, that's smart. That's a
Yeah.
really good way to measure it.
Yeah, to measure the real impact.
So did it work? Did it live up to the hype?
The results are pretty impressive, I'd say. Scientists using the AI discovered 44% more new materials.
44%.
Yeah.
That's a lot, especially in a field where things move kind of slowly, right?
Yeah, it's a huge jump in productivity for sure.
That's amazing. But I do have to ask, is it quantity over quality?
Yeah,
Is it just churning out more materials, or are these discoveries actually good?
that's the key question. The data suggests it's not just quantity. The materials they found with the AI scored higher on quality metrics too.
Oh, wow. So they're not just finding more, they're finding better materials. Okay, that's really cool. But I'm also curious, like, how does this actually translate into real world outcomes?
Yeah.
Are we seeing more patents, more new products?
Yeah, absolutely. Scientists using the tool had a 39% increase in patent filings
Wow.
and then a 17% increase in new prototypes.
That's what I'm talking about. So it's
Yeah.
actually leading to new things being made.
Yeah.
But here's a question that comes up a lot with AI.
Yeah.
Is it just speeding up discoveries that were going to happen anyway, or is it leading to things that are totally new?
There's some evidence that suggests that it is pushing the boundaries.
Okay.
For example, the materials that the AI designed are chemically different
Oh,
from
interesting.
the ones that we already have.
So it's not just like remixing what's already out there. It's coming up with new stuff.
Exactly, new territory.
Cool.
And the patents filed by scientists using AI were more likely to have new technical terms,
Oh, wow.
which suggests that they're developing genuinely new technology.
So even the language of science is changing because of this.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
What else tells us that it's doing something really innovative?
We're seeing the creation of entirely new product lines,
Okay.
not just improvements on the things that we already have.
So things that maybe we couldn't even have imagined before.
Right, things that were out of reach.
This is all so exciting, but let's talk about the people. Is this AI making scientists obsolete?
It's not as simple as just replacing people.
Okay.
What it's doing is it's changing the nature of scientific work.
Okay.
It's changing the focus from idea generation to judgment.
Okay, tell me more about that. What do you mean by judgment?
So, before this, scientists spent a ton of time, almost 40%, just brainstorming new materials.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But now the AI can handle a lot of that brainstorming.
Okay.
So scientists have more time to evaluate the options that it suggests.
Okay.
And that's where judgment comes in. It's figuring out which of those AI-generated ideas are actually worth pursuing.
So it's like the AI is this idea factory, but you still need humans to figure out which of those ideas are good
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
and which ones will actually lead to something.
And what's really interesting is the AI is actually most helpful to the scientists who are already the most productive.
Oh, really?
It's not like leveling the playing field.
Uh-huh.
It's actually increasing inequality among scientists
Why is that?
because it comes down to this skill of judgment.
Uh-huh.
Not all scientists are equally good at looking at the AI's suggestions and predicting which materials are going to work.
So some people are better at figuring out which of the AI's ideas are good ones.
Yes. And
Yeah.
they actually measured this judgment skill.
How did they do that?
They looked at how well scientists could predict which AI-generated materials would lead to successful experiments.
Oh, so they weren't just looking at how many ideas a scientist could come up with. They
No.
were looking at how good they were at picking the right ideas from what the AI gave them.
Precisely. And what they found is that the best judges of the AI's suggestions were the scientists who have the deepest knowledge in their field.
So the ones who already knew the most about material science.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the AI isn't making human expertise obsolete.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's making it even more valuable.
So it's not enough to just have the tool. You have to actually know what you're doing to use it well.
Yeah. But what about the scientists who aren't as good at judging?
Yeah. What happens to them?
That's a great question, and it highlights a really important part of this whole thing. Some scientists are thrilled with how productive they are, all the breakthroughs.
Makes sense.
But a lot are reporting lower job satisfaction since the AI was introduced.
Really? Why is that? I mean, if you're discovering more and making more breakthroughs, you think you'd be happy.
Yeah, but it's not just about the number of discoveries. A lot of scientists feel like their skills aren't being used.
Oh, I see.
They spent years, honing their expertise and coming up with new ideas.
Right.
And now they're being asked to focus on something different.
Something that maybe doesn't feel as rewarding.
Right. And, they are good at it. But it's like if you were a chef, a master chef, and then you were told you were going to spend most of your time washing dishes.
Yeah. You might be really good at washing dishes, but that's not why you became a chef.
Yeah, exactly. It's like being good at something, but not being able to use your full potential.
Right. Right. And it doesn't sound very fulfilling either.
No, it can lead to burnout, if you're not engaged and feeling like your skills aren't being used.
Yeah, absolutely. So how is this lab dealing with this? I mean, you mentioned they were changing their hiring practices. Can you give us an example of how a scientist's job is changing because of the AI?
Sure. One big change is this increased emphasis on judgment, like we talked about.
Right.
So the researchers found that the scientists who were really good at evaluating the AI's suggestions,
Yeah.
they were also really good at spotting what you might call false positives.
False positives.
Yeah, these are materials that the AI thought would work, but in reality, they wouldn't.
So the AI isn't perfect.
Right. It can make mistakes.
And it takes a human expert to catch those mistakes.
Exactly. Scientists with good judgment could often tell just by looking at the AI's suggestions, without even having to test them in the lab.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's like they have this intuition, this sense of which leads are worth following.
Yeah, like a detective, You don't want to chase down every single clue.
You got to focus on the ones that are most likely to solve the case.
Exactly. And this ability to sort the good leads from the bad ones, it seems to come from experience, from deep knowledge.
So the scientists who knew the most about material science were the best at judging the AI's suggestions.
Exactly. The AI doesn't replace intuition. It actually makes it more important.
Huh. So it's highlighting the value of human expertise.
Exactly. And this raises a big question. How do you learn that judgment skill? Can you teach it, or does it just come from experience?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because if judgment is going to be the most valuable skill in science, we need to know how to develop it.
Absolutely. And that's something researchers are still trying to figure out.
Okay.
But they did find that the scientists who were good at evaluating the AI, they were more likely to have published research on the specific materials they were working on.
Oh, so they were really deep into their area of expertise.
Exactly. It's not just general knowledge. It's about being a specialist.
So what does this mean for how we train scientists? Should we be encouraging more specialization, more hands-on experience?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. Knowing how to use the AI isn't enough. You need to understand the science behind it, the fundamentals.
It's like having a fancy calculator. If you don't know the math, it won't help you much.
Exactly. This has implications for universities, for how we teach science,
Okay.
and for research labs, too.
Yeah, how they train their scientists.
Exactly. But before we go too far into the future, let's come back to the present.
Yeah, let's talk about the scientists who are working with this AI right now. How has it changed their day-to-day work?
One of the biggest changes is how they spend their time.
Okay.
The AI is taking over a lot of the idea generation, like we said.
Right.
So scientists are spending less time brainstorming and more time evaluating the AI suggestions.
So their to-do list has changed. Less time at the whiteboard, more time on the computer, analyzing data.
Exactly. Before the AI, they spent almost 40% of their time on idea generation.
Wow, that's a lot.
Now it's less than 16%.
Wow, that's a huge drop.
But the time spent on evaluating the AI, that increased by 74%.
Wow. So their job is less about coming up with ideas and more about judging the AI's ideas.
That's a great way to put it. It's like being a curator.
Yeah, like curating the AI's output.
Exactly. And it's not just the data. The scientists themselves say their work has changed this way.
So it's a real shift in how they experience their jobs.
Yeah. And this brings us back to job satisfaction. Some scientists are happy with all the new discoveries, but some are struggling with this new way of working.
Right, we talked about how some feel like their skills aren't being used and the work isn't as creative. Is there anything else?
Yeah, they are worried about job security.
Oh, that makes sense.
Mm.
I mean, if an AI can generate ideas, what's to stop it from replacing scientists completely?
Yeah, it's a valid concern.
So how are they dealing with that fear?
Some are embracing the challenge, trying to learn new skills.
Yeah.
Others are more pessimistic, worried about their future.
I imagine it's creating some tension within the scientific community.
It is. It's a big shift. And we need to think about how to manage it so that it benefits everyone.
Yeah, for sure. So we've talked about how the AI is changing the scientists' jobs. But what about the lab as a whole? How is it adapting to this new way of doing research?
Well, the lab is changing too. They're focusing more on specialized areas of research.
Okay.
Because those scientists with deep expertise in a particular area are better at evaluating the AI.
Right, right.
Well,
So the lab is becoming more specialized because of the AI.
exactly. And they are investing in training programs to help their scientists develop that judgment skill.
So they're trying to give their scientists the tools they need to succeed in this new world.
Yeah, exactly. And they're also looking at how to use AI in other parts of the research process, like data analysis, even writing papers.
Wow. So the AI is becoming more integrated into the whole research process. It's not just about idea generation anymore.
Yeah, it's becoming a partner in the whole scientific endeavor.
That's amazing. But it also raises some concerns, right? Like, how do we make sure the AI is being used ethically?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And how do we prevent bias from creeping in?
Yeah, those are big questions.
They are. We're entering a new era of science, and we need to be careful.
It sounds like a lot of responsibility comes with all this potential.
It does, but I think it's also a very exciting time. We're on the cusp of some amazing breakthroughs.
Well, that's a good point. I think we have to acknowledge both the challenges and the opportunities.
Absolutely. It's a new frontier, and we need to explore it carefully.
I like that, a new frontier.
Mhm.
So, as we wrap up this part of our discussion, I'm curious to know what you think the next few years hold for AI and material science.
That's a good question. It's hard to say for sure, but I think we're going to see even more rapid progress. AI is getting more powerful all the time.
And that means more possibilities for discovery and innovation.
Exactly. We're witnessing a fundamental shift in how science is done. It's really a turning point. It's definitely a time of big change, but also a time of incredible opportunity. If we do this right, AI could revolutionize materials science and help us build a better future.
It really makes you think, this AI isn't just changing what scientists discover, it's changing how they do it. It's like changing the whole process of science.
Yeah, it really is. It's not just about automating tasks.
Mm.
It's about changing how we think about scientific inquiry.
And that brings up so many questions.
Yeah.
Like, if AI is going to be this big part of discovery, how do we make sure that human creativity isn't lost?
That's a great question. How do we keep that spark of curiosity alive?
Yeah.
I don't think we have all the answers yet, but AI is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used in different ways. It depends on us, how we decide to use it.
Yeah, it's not about AI versus humans. It's about figuring out how they can work together.
Exactly. We need to be talking about the good and the bad, the benefits and the risks,
Yeah.
and really think about what kind of future we want to create.
So as we finish up this deep dive into AI and material science, what's the one thing you want our listeners to remember?
One thing. I'd say AI is changing science. Big time. And it has amazing potential, but also some big challenges.
Yeah, that's been a theme throughout our conversation.
We need to be careful,
Mhm.
approach this new era with a sense of wonder, but also be cautious.
Yeah.
We're going to have to adapt as technology keeps advancing.
Well said. To everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this journey into the future of scientific discovery.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
I hope we've made you curious and given you something to think about. Who knows what we'll discover next with AI?
The possibilities are endless.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep learning.